Alright, hello and welcome. I've got a Wave 23 start here for the Alchemical Labs Nightmare Survival Hardcore. Low stats, fully AFK. I'm going to show you what you could be coming in with if you farmed out Ancient Mines first, which you should. A main stat upwards of 1500 or a combined total for your defense stats upwards of 3300 is very achievable with a modest amount of farming in the Ancient Mines. The gear that I'm showing here is all from the Ancient Mines Nightmare Hardcore Survival. I do have a video for a Wave 23 start, low stats for that as well. Link to that in the description. Also a card in the corner for you to click if you're interested. For the Apprentice, we're going to go in with 1200 power, 550 for rate, and 600 fortify and defense rate. Going to be plenty. For Traps, we've got 700 fortify, 750 for power, 800 range, and 700 for defense rate. Cut power, if anything. For the Monk, we've got 850 for fortify, 600 power, 1000 range, and 400 defense rate. The Electric Ores put in a ton of work for this build. The EV's going in with 850 for fortify, 550 for power, 300 range, and 300 defense rate. We're going to start things off with a tower stack, 3 DSTs, and 2 flame bursts aimed straight ahead. If anything, aim this one slightly left. It'll help out a little bit with the boss fight. As of 1.1, there are boss fights at the end of the finale maps. Each one has the same boss fight that you would see in the campaign, and we'll be using a Squire to fight the Demon Lord. In terms of gear, the only requirement is that you have a 95% block value weapon. We've got a 4DU buff beam going down here between the flame bursts and DSTs. After you drop the beam, make sure you check and see that everything has an armor value on it to see that they're all being buffed. Next up, we'll drop some 1DU reflect walls around this tower stack, but I think it's a good idea to max out the buff beam first because it can be difficult to find the buff beam through these walls once they're down. It's easier to just max the buff beam out before you put these reflects down. These reflect walls are going to stop any spiders from throwing spider webs on your towers, and they put in a ton of work in this build. Next up, we're going to have some 3DU EV walls going down here between this little mess of pipes on the ground here and this grate in front of the furnace. They don't have to be down in any specific angle, but the closer they are together, the easier it'll be to fit them both on a 4DU buff beam. Being able to get both walls on a buff beam is arguably the only reason why we can pull this off with such low fortify. Angling the walls toward the furnace in this way not only makes it easier to actually get them both on the buff beam, but it also makes things better for the traps that are going to go down next for the build. I do like tossing a few level ups on this buff beam before I forget. I'm going to swap over to the Trap Hunters and lay down an Inferno Trap as close to the furnace as possible while still having it hit the buff beam. You'll know it's on the buff beam if its range is significantly increased from when you were putting it down, and also you'll see the clouds of pink smoke flying off the trap itself. Next, right behind it, we'll have a gas trap go down, and then we can swap over to our Aura Monk and drop an Ensnare Electric and Strength Drain Aura right behind that. While I'm here, I do like to add 3 level ups each on the Strength Drain, Electric Aura, and Inferno Trap. The Strength Drain is going to do a ton to help the walls take less damage, and the Electric Aura and Inferno Trap are going to get most of the kills over here. I do like adding a Healing Aura right here on this circle. I think it's helpful for the boss fight. We'll be fighting him on that side of the map. To round out the build, we'll drop an Ensnare, Electric, and Strength Drain Aura on the first step here behind the boss weapons. In order to keep this build completely AFK, we're going to have to max out the Electric and Strength Drain Auras here, otherwise you may have to repair them mid-wave, at least with these stats, but you could do that from the tower stack. The rest of the build mana can be evenly dispersed into your towers. I'm going to cut to a Wave 1 start here in just a sec. If you're not interested in that, feel free to skip to 5 minutes and 15 seconds into the video. For Wave 1, I think the easiest thing to do is just start with both Aura stacks. There is a Wave 1 Ogre, and he's really easy to take down with any DPS weapon on any of your builders. To stay safe during the wave, you can sort of parkour your way up to this flag here and hang out and just wait it out until there's only a few enemies left. Then you can hop down and maybe deal with the Djinn if it's trying to steal a defense. This Ogre is easy to take out. You just need a DPS weapon. Literally any DPS weapon from the Ancient Mines or about level equivalent, level appropriate is going to work on any of your builders. If you don't have one or you really don't want to get one, you could just kite him around in your Electric Aura for a while and he will go down eventually. I like dropping the first 2 DSTs and the walls for Wave 2. That makes things a lot easier. You can hop up on that flag again and just stay there for the whole wave. Everything's going to go down to the auras and DSTs. You should end up with plenty of mana to round out the build for Wave 3. In terms of upgrade priority, I think the smartest thing to do is to prioritize the buff beams, and then perhaps after that, the strength drains and electric auras, and maybe the Inferno. They'll be doing a lot of work here in the build, but that's really up to you. I think it's smart though to max out the buff beam on the tower stack first. But with that, we're good to go. Alright, back at wave 23 here, I'm going to G up on my monk and then do absolutely nothing. I think the monk is the best. I speed this way up. I think the monk's the best bet because you get the passive builder bonus on your electric auras, and that does help in terms of taking things out a little more quickly and kind of speeding this along. If you were willing to contribute in any way, you could come into this with lower stats. You could boost on your monk, you could overdrive on your apprentice, you could slap a DPS weapon on any of your heroes and dish out some damage. Anything would help you come in with lower stats. Even just repairing stuff mid-wave would help you come in with lower fortify for your auras or anything else. In terms of upgrade priority from here, I like leveling the aura stack and the Inferno. I know that they're putting in most of the work in terms of killing stuff, so I think it's smart. Also, the buff beam is going to help give more armor to these walls, and I like throwing one level up on each of them too. The auras are the only thing taking care of the enemies that are coming in from those weak lanes, so they will need to be repaired between waves, and then the rest of this mana can go into the tower stack. You'll probably need to repair your reflect walls here because they have been bouncing back tons of projectiles. Naturally, wave 24 is as AFK as wave 23, so I just have to skip it here, and then we'll get ready for the boss wave. Things do change up. The upgrade priority is the same, but I do like to level up the healing aura a bit. You will want a Squire for the boss. It's a good idea to have one level 70 in some legendary gear. You could level up the gear for vitality or attack. Just make sure you have some of each. A great pet to take down the Demon Lord with is the Steam Robot. You can get that from wave 14 of the Lava Mines. I've got a level 55 here. Nothing special about it. That's kind of middle of the road in terms of max upgrades. You can definitely get better. Some may be worse. Here is a quick peek at the build I used with these stats to get this Steam Robot. This is the bottom crystal here, the top crystal coming up next. I can do a video on this build, but it's pretty simple, and if you want to copy it, you can just pause here. I hang out on these pipes with the DPS weapon on my Huntress and take down the copters myself, though. That makes things a lot easier, and then I DPS down ogres and whatnot. This is the Steam Robot that I got from the first run here at the Lava Mines. You could also level up a weapon to do some damage by swinging your sword. You get increased armor when you boost, so there's no reason not to have a weapon to dish out some additional damage here. You will want 98% armor across your 4 armored pieces. The easiest way to do it is 25 on 2 pieces and 24 on the other 2. Here I sort of do that with 25 on 2 and then 20 and 28. You'll have a little bit of armor on your shield as well. You can keep that in mind, but either way, it's good to have this sort of setup here. You can very easily level a new character to 70 by slotting a fresh one into your deck and running it in your deck while you start from wave 23. All that said, I'm not going to assume you have that set up, so here's what I'm going to fight the Demon Lord with. This is solo. This is the Squire I used to play through the hard campaign all by himself. He's got a weapon here with 95% block value. That is really all you'll need. He's got 100 vitality just to have some HP. You can see here he's in some very underwhelming gear, way under geared for this fight, but you're going to see that it's actually very doable. Wave 25 is as AFK as ever, so I do hang out on the tower stack and G up. Once you're down to about 500 enemies, I would go around and collect the mana here. You're going to need to prepare for the boss fight. This is where it stops being AFK, obviously, and I think your best bet is to just make sure everything is topped off. If you're concerned about taking damage, just stay inside of your strength drain auras and you'll be safe. You'll have plenty of time to go around, collect mana, repair, and upgrade as you wish. I have a tougher time here because this character has such low stats that it takes a really long time just to repair stuff. There I go. I just gained 10 levels by the wave ending. I guess that's one way to do it. I spend this time repairing and upgrading. Evidently, I am too low level to max things out, so I don't think that's an issue you'll have, but spend it however you wish. The healing aura is a good idea to level up too. I opt to skip the cinematic here. This fight is pretty one note. I'm gonna speed it up quite a bit. The idea here is that I hang out in front of the pylon, next to the wall, not in front of the wall, and I right click. And that's really all it takes. You just have to manage your block, which involves holding your right mouse button, And then staying inside the healing aura is going to allow you to heal up fast enough for the chip damage that you take to not kill you. And I have a feeling that the nerf hammer is going to come down pretty hard on this. My wall goes down. I opt to become the wall. I kind of planned that. That's not a big deal. That's just the easy way to do it because that's going to allow you to keep him in range of your towers. That was the most consistent way for me to do it with this build. I have a feeling block is going to be nerfed at some point, and you may need an actual squire setup to do this, but I figured I would just give it a shot with solo here, and it works out. That said, when I did this fight with Ringo, the first squire that I showed you, it was so easy that I didn't even have to block most of the time, and boosting with the steam bot tore him up. Undoubtedly, the best hero to pop this chest with is your Huntress. You're going to get a Disintegrator, which is a great weapon here. I got a Paddle Ball. Level 96, though. If you got any other pet level 96 aside from a Griffin, that would be great. But I'm going to flip through my stats here one more time, just something I always do at the end of the run. The pet can be any random Act 1 pet. You want to see a Mistamine Steambot or Propeller Cat, ideally. However, you should fully expect the game to troll you with Hippogriff after Hippogriff. At least it does for me. The Disintegrator can get pretty good. Here's a 144 that I got. This is the best one that I got here, and I did get some Steam Bots actually. Here's a level 80, a level 71. The best one that I got was actually a level 93. You'll want to see that. If you get a level 93 Steam Bot here, you are so ready for Massacre. To level up your new Disintegrator, you should go into ranged damage and level up ranged attack rate as you're able to, and this thing is really good. It's kind of the new triple threat. It rips. It's really, really strong, and it's got a nice attack pattern. Here you can see me destroying the Summit Dragon in Nightmare Hardcore campaign. It's really, really strong, and if you get the Fire Breath, you can 2-cycle him. I've got like 750 attack here. It's the same Huntress I was using for traps. At this point in the game, you should absolutely have a dedicated DPS Huntress, and if you did, she'd have probably over 1,000 attack in appropriate gear, and you'd be able to dish out some serious damage. I flipped through my stats here because I did this with the same exact stats that I went into the Alchemical Labs with the run you just saw. Of course, you can start farming gemstones. Speedy is always nice. Powerful's good too, and I'll just give you a quick peek at the build. It's 12 DSTs on a 6DU buff beam with a darkness trap under it. Those are 5DU EV walls attached with a buff beam as well, and the front's just got a gas trap and a apprentice wall on each. That flame burst didn't really do a whole lot. This is a pretty quick run, and I only had one character leveling here, so it would be more like 8 million XP per run if you wanted to level here. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, here's a quick peek at some of the gear you can get. It is a step up from the Ancient Mines, so you will see some upgrades here. The gear, it's level 80, level 90 max upgrades is what I was finding pretty consistently. You'll find some nice pieces, and you will be able to get some upgrades out of these runs. The weapons go even higher. I was finding weapons 130 plus pretty consistently, and out of the victory chest they went even higher than that. Here's just a quick look at a couple of the highest level weapons that I got out of the victory chest depending on which character I was on when I did pop it. I know that weapon is in fact a boss weapon, and it looks like it's pretty good. So I've been asked a handful of times to update my prom build for Nightmare Hardcore Survival, but I have to wonder why, because between here and Summit you can hit 83 and gear up pretty effectively, and then you can just go straight to farming Wave 5 Sirens on Deeper Well Massacre campaign. I don't know why you wouldn't want to do this instead of farming Nightmare Survival. Maybe I'm missing something. If I am, let me know in the comments. Here's a quick look at the victory and the build from Deeper Well Mass Campaign. This is actually, I went in with the same stats as I did for the Alch Labs run that you just saw. So you can do this with really low stats too, and it's very effective. And this gear is on par with what you would find late wave of Nightmare Hardcore Survival. If you farm up gear here for a while and gear up all of your builders, you'll be able to steamroll the mass campaign and break into Massacre Survival. So I don't know why you wouldn't want to do it this way. It seems like it would take a lot longer to gear up from Nightmare Hardcore Survival than it would be from the mass campaign. You can do this with any of the Act 1 maps, whichever one you can handle, the hardest one. They get better as you go, but here I am geared up on a different apprentice with gear that I got from doing this, and my power is at 2500. You can get 2500 in any main stat for any character as you do this, and it's all gear that I got from here. So I think this is probably the ideal path in terms of progression with breaking into Massacre from Nightmare. Again, I don't know why people would rather run Nightmare Hardcore Survival than Mass Campaign. And you can bang these runs out pretty quick. Here I am finishing one at 6 minutes and 45 seconds. So you could do 8 or 9 an hour casually. This is how I geared up in 1.0, and this is how I would also do it in 1.1. I don't see why I would go any different. Just another peek at the gear you can get from here. It can get pretty good. Some of it's level 83, some of it's level 90, but it gets up there, and it only gets better as you go. Again, with the same stats that I ran with in the Nightmare Alchemical Labs Survival run that you just saw, I get in here and take down the Demon Lord from Mass Campaign. Hardcore as well. Check out the Wave 5 Siren loot from here. It gets way better. I do have videos already for both Deeper Well and Alchemical Labs Massacre campaign. Both of those builds still hold up because they don't use towers, but you know, you can do an EV version with towers and buff beams. I can do videos on both of these builds if you like, but this is some good gear here, and this would definitely get you ready for Massacre Survival. I do flip through again to show my stats. I think you get the point by now, but this is the progression path that I would take if I were starting fresh from 1.1. If your thoughts differ on the ideal progression path from breaking into Nightmare through to Massacre Survival, let me know. Hop in the Discord and we can chat about that, or drop in when I'm streaming on Twitch. Links to both are in the description as always. I do pop the chest here on my hunters and get the worst demon horns that I've ever seen. They can go upwards of 200 upgrades from here. But yeah, that's going to do it from me here now. Feel free to share your thoughts on the build and progression in general in the comments below. And thank you so much for watching.